Thank you for joining us for today's webcast, Why Employee Financial Wellness Matters and What You Can Do About It. I'm Sarah Hunt, Education and Engagement Leader for the Corporate Health and Wellness Association. As you know, a growing trend for today's corporations has been on the focus on overall total well-being of employees, a more holistic, well-rounded approach to ensure that the broad needs and concerns of employees are met. According to a recent PricewaterhouseCoopers report, nearly 1 in 3 employees is distracted at work due to financial stress. During today's exciting webcast and very timely webcast, we take a detailed look at financial stress and the correlation it has on reduced productivity, presenteeism, and even an increase in health risks. Today's presentation is brought to you in partnership with the Corporate Health and Wellness Association and Purchasing Power. I'd like to begin today's presentation by introducing today's presenter, Scott Rosenberg. Scott is the Chief Financial Officer at Purchasing Power, having joined the team in 2012. His operational experience, coupled with his strategic planning, thinking, and financial acumen, were crafted in a host of highly recognizable brands and companies such as J. Crew, Lennox, Pillsbury, now part of General Mills, and H.J. Heinz. Scott holds an MBA in finance from the American University and a bachelor's degree in finance and management from Long Island University. Today's webcast is going to be available about 48 hours from today. We'll be sending you a copy of the replay in audio form, and we'll be emailing it to all of you so that you can listen to it, pass it along to your colleagues and friends within the industry. In addition, you can type questions throughout the presentation. We will be holding an open Q&A segment for the last 5 to 10 minutes. So without further ado, I would now like to pass the mic along to Scott.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon and good morning to those on the West Coast. As most of you know, the term financial wellness is a new HR buzzword, but for employees dealing with financial stress, it's really not new at all. During this webinar, we'll take a look at the numbers behind financial stress, how to use voluntary benefits to help your employees, and different ways you can position your benefits to show your support. So, before we start talking about how much employee financial stress might be costing you, let's take a look at why employee financial wellness is even a concern and what's happening to your employee expenses. You see on the chart above, or the slide above, there's various concerns or distractions to our employees. In particular, 44% don't have at least $2,000 in emergency savings for an unforeseen event. Another 25% have borrowed from their retirement savings to meet their immediate financial needs. And those that borrow from their 401k, which are funds that are meant for their golden years, are using the funds to pay for big-ticket items today, like mortgage payments, medical expenses, or even college tuition for their kids. This completely compromises the whole purpose of the 401k. And while many employees' financial situations have improved, employee financial stress has only decreased slightly since last year. Many are still reeling from the Great Recession and struggle to make ends meet. And others, while they may be on strong financial footing, are cautiously optimistic about their ability to stay there. Based off of a research survey that we conducted, 80% of employees said they have some type of financial stress today. 56% say their family's incomes are falling behind the cost of living, further increasing financial strain. And they're bringing that stress to work. In fact, according to some surveys, anywhere from 1/3 of your employees spend time at work distracted by personal finances. But these aren't the ones who are worried about how their retirement portfolio is performing or whether they have enough savings. These are the ones that are having to borrow against their retirement savings, if they even have them, or use high-interest credit cards to pay for unexpected expenses like medical or major car expenses, or even worse, resort to payday loans or the like. All right, so now that we've reviewed some of the financial realities with some of the survey information I gave you prior, in the financial realities facing the employees, let's dig into what employee financial stress may be costing you. In a nutshell, employee financial stress impacts your company typically in three ways. First, lost productivity. Second, healthcare and related costs. And third, employee retention and benefit packages. You know, as a CFO, I can tell you that everyone, whether they be shareholders, board of directors, CEOs, etc., are all focused on how to drive improved financial performance and value. Whether it's for competitive reasons, staying ahead of your competition or not falling further behind, or to create additional funding for reinvestment in the business. Over the next few slides, we'll take a deeper look into the cost behind each of these cost areas above and how they might be impacting you. Well, let's start with lost productivity. And looking at the poll you guys just took, you guessed pretty closely to what we found. Based off a research survey that we conducted through Harris Interactive, more than 30% of employees spend time at work dealing with personal finances. Of those who spend time at work, 50% of those respondents said they spend at least an hour dealing with personal finances during the work week, and 32% spend anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. So clearly it's top of mind for the majority of the employees. But just as concerning is those employees who may not deal with finances at work, but who are impacted nonetheless. For example, in the Harris Interactive survey, 44% of the employees stated that they worry about their finances while at work. This is affecting their engagement levels, morale, work quality, and can even impact their coworkers around them. So what is this lost time on productivity actually costing you? For each different industry that we've profiled above, the Bureau of Labor Statistics provides information on what the average total compensation per hour employers pay their employees. Looking at the percentage of employees distracted due to financial stress, the average amount of time they experience this stress, as well as the company size, we're able to calculate a company's potential productivity drain each week. And these numbers look even scarier on an annual basis. But for example, in the healthcare example above, while you may be losing $83,000 each week, on an annual basis, it would be over $4 million for a 5,000 employee company. In the manufacturing sector, it's more than $5 million a year in lost productivity due to financial stress. Not to mention what it could mean to product or service quality issues and measures as well. Poor financial health and related stressors also impact physical health, which definitely lowers productivity, but it can also drive up your company's health care costs. When an employee is unexpectedly ill, they may call out and miss work, but if they're at work, they're not focused entirely on the job. Also, 26% of employees put off doctor visits due to economic conditions, which potentially let minor medical issues escalate into more costly problems. So you can see above, employees kind of dealing with high financial stress are just highly subject to related health issues, or could be subject to related health issues on a more escalated basis. So what's the potential cost for healthcare issues? In 2013, for all U.S. companies, you can see $117 billion spent in replacing sick employees, $232 billion spent on medical treatments and prescriptions, and $260 billion lost annually in productivity due to sick days. So to be honest, there isn't an actual cost that's associated with healthcare costs impacted by financial stress. But again, according to the American Psychological Association, money, work, and the economy are the top three sources of stress for American workers. And taking that into consideration, you see the numbers on this slide, which are all staggering numbers. Many employees are actively out there trying to find a better compensation and benefit package that can help them meet their financial needs. 49% of employees are somewhat likely to look for new jobs, and many of them cite financial concerns. Employees are depending on their place of work to be their financial safety net. More than half of the employees surveyed for MetLife's most recent benefits trend survey stated because of the economy, they're counting on employers' benefit programs to help with their financial protection needs. When an employee leaves, it can cost the company thousands of dollars to find a replacement. The stats on this slide show how much it could cost per industry to replace your lost employees, again, according to salary data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is on a 10,000 employee company basis. So again, you can see turnover can impact the manufacturing sector up to $10 million, finance, healthcare, and retail almost $15 million, hospitality almost $17 million, and professional services about $27.5 million. And an interesting fact, did you know that it can cost your company almost 20% of the employee's annual salary if your top talent decides to leave? You know, in some specialized fields like nursing, it can cost more than 100% of that employee's annual salary in replacement costs. So most of you already offer core benefits that provide some ease to your employees' financial well-being, but you really need to dig a little deeper and offer a wide variety of voluntary benefits to help increase their financial state of mind and in return provide you with a more focused and productive employee. You've got access now to more voluntary options in your toolbox than ever before. Employers and their employees are looking for help to decide which options are best for them. But where do you start? You know, we've looked at the collection of benefits that are available out there, and weaving through the field of benefits, taking a look at what benefits might need to be filled. For example, we've taken a look at some of the voluntary benefits that are available in the marketplace and started to put them into buckets. You know, so in our view, we've put traditional voluntary benefits, things like life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment, vision insurance, retirement planning, kind of the ones that have become mainstay, if you will, from a voluntary benefit offering standpoint. We've also characterized another grouping around buying and banking options, things like employee purchase programs and discount programs, flexible spending accounts, short-term loans, as an example. And while most people may be familiar with traditional options, they may be confused about the other options out there. Starting with purpose helps them understand the value of the benefits to their employees. Buying and banking, as an example, gives employees alternative ways to save, spend, or borrow. They help employees who are underserved by traditional financing options or who want access to services that aren't generally available to them otherwise. And remember, as I stated earlier, 66% of employees do not qualify for prime credit. That was on one of the earlier slides. So many are looking for alternative ways to access goods and services in a financially responsible manner. Kind of continuing along this purpose theme, there are benefits that also provide convenience, like pet insurance and on-site child care. Typically, the employee is able to take advantage of cost savings that they wouldn't get otherwise because they're getting these benefits through their employer. Plus, by paying for these benefits through payroll deduction, they also have the convenience of one less bill to worry about. Voluntary benefits that focus on personal care and improvement are also a great way for employers to show that they care about the whole employee, while also encouraging them to be proactive about their physical, mental, and financial health. And lastly, benefits that provide financial safety nets offer protection from financial crises that can be potentially devastating for employees. So just by adding a few benefits like these, you're helping your employees, and remember, they don't cost you a thing. So far during this webinar, we've discussed how much employee financial stress is costing you and different types of voluntary benefits that you can use to help address it. Now let's take a look at ways you can position these benefits to support your employees' financial well-being. You've all heard about and understand the idea around wellness programs and how they can improve your employees' physical and mental health and even help your bottom line. But of course, most of these programs don't really take financial health into the mix. So the next logical extension of these type of programs is financial wellness. And most of you already have some of the ingredients to get started, like your 401k program. So if you simply offered some of the benefits we just talked about, you're on your way to an expanded wellness program that your employees will understand and appreciate. Remember, it's all about positioning of your benefit solutions. So based off some research we've found, this is what we found needs to be included in order to have a true financial wellness program. Retirement programs and services, financial counseling and education, and benefits and online self-help resources. All right, so let's wrap things up a little bit here. We just went through a lot of information in a very short amount of time. So I wanted to make sure that you have what I feel are the top 5 things to remember from the presentation. 1, 80% of employees are financially stressed. 2, 49% of employees are likely to leave due to financial concerns. Third, on average, 33% of employees are spending at least 1 hour at work dealing with personal finances. 4, voluntary benefits can help you support your employees. And 5, retirement plans don't equal financial wellness. And I can tell you from a personal standpoint, as a leader of a company, I kind of liken it to being a parent. Our job is to provide a look into the future, provide choices and opportunities, and lay a strong foundation for our employees. It's to shepherd our employees, not necessarily to control them like Big Brother in George Orwell's book, 1984. With respect to benefits in general, voluntary benefits more specifically, and financial wellness even more specifically, we need to adapt and grow as employers, offering new and different benefits to address the changing needs of our employees, arm them with programs that help them meet the near-term and longer-term financial wellness needs, educate them on the merits of these programs, and let them decide what is best for their own situation. So with that, I just want to thank you for your time and attention, and I'd be happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, everybody, for sitting in and listening. Great information, Scott. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. We'd now like to open it up to take some of the listeners' questions. You can simply begin by submitting your questions in the bottom Q&A box, and we'll have Scott address them. So we've got one question. Scott, how do you determine the level of financial stress for your employees without making it seem too personal?
There's basically 2 things that you can look at without having to dig into your employees' personal finances. The first one is really taking a look at how many of your employees have loans against their retirement savings, and how many are repeat borrowers? And secondly, taking note of the number of employees that are asking and or receiving paycheck advances. Looking at those two items, which an employer can see readily, will give you a general sense if your employees are experiencing some type of financial stress and trying to solve for short-term issues with funds that are meant for longer-term retirement.
Excellent. And Diane asks, you mentioned, Scott, that the programs don't cost anything. How are these programs or the services paid for?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, the programs are paid directly by the employee. So the employer themselves are really just sponsoring these type of benefit solutions, if you will, as opposed to having to pay any hard dollars to offer them. So it's really an employee engaging with the available benefit solution, and that's typically what we see in a lot of the voluntary benefit space.
Felicia asks, is there a drive to use coaching for financial well-being, like with wellness?
Absolutely. I think as more and more, again, employers are looking at the issues their employees are facing and thinking about the solution set to offer them. I mean, coaching, making available content, curating information that, again, comes together to help the employee with various sets of financial stress issues is definitely one of the big pushes that we're seeing in the marketplace. And again, the curation of the content is really key because every individual employee is going to have some different issue that they may be facing or dealing with based on where they are in kind of their career progression and their family progression. So trying to figure out what fits everybody is nearly impossible. So it's trying to cast as broad a content net as possible so that, again, as I mentioned earlier as well, employee self-service, how do you serve up the content so the employee can engage with it and address their specific need or challenge?
Okay. We have a question from Jeff. She states they're having trouble getting people to actually use their EAP services, mentioning that when they have an on-site clinic and when an individual has hypertension, they run out the door against medical advice. So there's trouble in getting folks to use EAPs in financial support. Do you have some recommendations or solutions?
You know, one of the things that I can only speak from some of the things that we're doing to kind of help kind of fast forward this part of the business. So, you know, in helping our employees focus and manage their financial future, obviously we're doing things like offering a competitive 401k plan with a match and an array of funds for contributions. But the other thing that we've also found very helpful is making available financial advisors that come on site and conduct confidential one-on-one meetings with our employees to help them with not only kind of investment thoughts and decisions, but also personal financial planning strategies. So where maybe somebody doesn't think of an EAP as a viable solution or outlet for them for financial concerns, we've kind of supplemented EAP with kind of this financial counseling offering that we've made available. So that is our perspective. That's something that we do that others may find helpful as well.
Okay. A couple of questions about, you know, the structure with voluntary benefits. Can you, hold on, just speak a little bit more about how voluntary benefits would enhance the financial wellness and retention. And we had another comment, you know, where most of, you know, the companies that are charging employers for this benefit, so that it's free education and coaching for employees and is 100% sponsored by the employer. Are you saying that this is not common? What she was asking.
So let me see if I follow that line of question. So one part of it was around how would voluntary benefits potentially address the financial well-being of employees, and then I think secondarily it's employer sponsorship versus employees paying through to engage with the benefit itself. And the second part of it, obviously it varies, but I'll come back to that. As it relates to voluntary benefit offerings and addressing financial well-being and financial wellness, if you think back, and I know you all will have access to the slides, it sounds like in the next 48 hours or so, and you think about the segmentation of the voluntary benefits by purpose, right? One of the areas that we talked about was financial safety nets that provide things against financial crises. They all sit within the voluntary benefit potential offering space. Personal care and improvement, whether it be tuition assistance as an example of programs that exist today, or wellness programs around personal care. Again, anything that we can do to reduce both health and mental stresses and then financial stress all come under this financial well-being, because we've talked about the connectedness, right, between financial stress and its impact on health and mental well-being and wellness. So when you look at the segmentation of available voluntary benefits by purpose, I think the key for HR leaders and other management of companies is to really look and align the purpose of what is facing their employees with the available benefits that are there. So you make a comprehensive solution to what is a new and increasing challenge for employees throughout the U.S., particularly on financial wellness concerns. As it relates to the question around employer sponsorship versus employees paying and who's doing what, it really does differ by program offering. A lot of times what you'll see in the financial wellness suite of curating content and making that available, there's various solutions out there where the employer could be picking up the tab for offering that solution to their employees as part of how they look at kind of the value equation of what they're offering. And in other cases where, where I cited that the employees are engaging and then bearing the cost, you find that a lot in some of the other voluntary benefits, whether it be pet insurance or purchase programs. The employee is engaging directly with the program as opposed to the employer kind of stepping in with financial liability or commitment, but they're making the benefit available, so they're the sponsor but not engaged or having any financial commitment.
Okay. Scott, what is your take on using nonprofit credit counseling agencies for financial education and financial coaching?
Makes perfect sense to me. I mean, obviously, nonprofit versus profit offerings, there's always a general concern with the profit-oriented companies of, separating kind of financial wellness content and am I selling something, right? In the nonprofit space, you kind of separate those issues completely so that there tends to be more of a maybe a comfort level, lack of a better word, on a potential not-for-profit offering because there's not any attempt or any concern about ulterior motives.
And, if an employer is having, I'm an HR representative and, my budget's being cut, how can I start a financial wellness program?
Sure. No, it's obviously a great question. I think one of the things that, that we've talked about here is the joys of voluntary benefits or the the nicety around it is they tend to be free to the employer. They can be. So simply looking at, the variety of voluntary benefits that are available and adding the ones that you think would benefit your employees is clearly the key here. And again, you can look, if you look by purpose and then you kind of overlay cost of doing business and start with the ones that are free to you, then again, you're able to add a couple benefits into your offering without incurring any additional costs. So in the case of financial wellness, where the retirement planning is already there, if you can find one or two benefits that are available, you can jumpstart that financial wellness program without incurring additional cost.
We have a couple of questions, Scott, as it relates to motivating employees or incentivizing. How do you motivate an employee to pay out of pocket for the cost of financial education or a financial wellness? It seems difficult enough, you mentioned, to get them to participate in retirement programs, and there's fear that they won't be motivated to do this or that there may be lack of interest. Have you seen some different creative ways to engage or incentivize employees to participate?
Sure. What you'll find in a lot of financial wellness programs, and again, it doesn't necessarily have to cost the employee anything, but there's this merging of education and gamification, right? So there's an engagement strategy behind serving up content within a financial wellness program in particular, where, whether it be through quizzes or profiles, if you will, the employee can engage with that content that an employer has assembled. And the engagement really is through both the gamification exercise, which just rewards, if you will, the employee for different accomplishments, through the financial wellness continuum, if you will, through these curated programs. So again, I think it helps self-perpetuate engagement because, one, it's customized because it's based on the employee's input into the program. And then as they're able to accomplish various milestones within the program, it's also rewarding back to them. So it drives kind of that continued engagement as they move, up the kind of the gamification ranks from a progress standpoint.
And Scott, can you just highlight for us again, what are some of the most popular benefits that you're seeing or new and unique voluntary benefit solutions that are being offered that address employee wellness? Any new and different offerings that can reduce debt that you foresee?
I'd say from what we're seeing popularity-wise, and some of them may specifically address financial wellness, and I think others are just generally addressing concerns of employees there. One of them is obviously around identity theft, right? There's recent kind of rash of credit card frauds that has heightened everybody's concern. And again, that translates into prevention of financial crises, if you will, by how do I do what I can to protect my identity and eliminate the opportunity for some identity theft, fraud, which then translates into financial hardship. Secondly, I'd say it's around elder care. With both the decline of the economy, several years back, more people, particularly Gen Xers, are really having to start taking care of aging parents, and they're looking for help from the employers with that financial burden. And then I'd say purchase programs, because people are trying to spend more smartly, and they like programs where they can pay over time rather than all at once. And also it provides an alternative to higher interest credit cards or, more expensive options to access goods and services that they need, in their family setting.
Anything in regards to student loan refinancing?
I don't have any specific information on that, but I'm happy to see if we can find something from a programmatic perspective that might help address that. but nothing top of mind.
We have time for one last question. Scott, do you see financial wellness as being a standalone program or as an intervention within a worksite wellness program or worksite well-being program?
Quite honestly, the more integrated it is as an offering, I think the better it is for the employer, and I think from an employee standpoint, it's also, again, more of a suite of what the employer is offering as opposed to a one-off. And I think, again, as we see more and more interconnectedness of financial stress, impacts on health or mental well-being, I think integration is really what it's all about. And it can always start out as a standalone, but I think the key thing is, as I mentioned earlier in my closing remarks, it's around creating vision for the employees, and part of that vision is how the benefits that we offer interconnect for their well-being, regardless of whether it's health, mental, or financial. So I think the more we can do to integrate and position these offerings as, benefits that are available to them for their taking, we'll do a better job as employers.
And one last question, any apps for financial counseling or support that you've seen out there?
None again that come top of mind, but any Google search will probably yield several offerings there. There are companies that are making their way in kind of the financial wellness arena and packaging, again, content, some of the gamification I've talked about, short-term loans potentially. So they're starting to emerge onto the scene as this kind of area of focus has continued to grow and is becoming kind of central to a lot of the employer-employee conversations. So I think you'll continue to see more of them, but there are several that are out there. But I don't want to opine on one versus the other.
One of the things we like to do is focus and share employer case studies from some of the work that you've done. Scott, are there any award programs out there that honor employers who have best financial wellness practices?
None that I've come across. Apologize for that, but I haven't necessarily seen anything that that specifically is kind of rewarding best practice in financial wellness. And I think largely because it's an emerging kind of focus, more so than anything else. But clearly, if inclination would be, if you look at the kind of various studies of top employers, whether conducted by any of the publishing companies or magazines, you'll find snippets of what they offer, but I can't say that it's specifically focused on financial wellness.
Well, excellent. And just to kind of add to that, and that leads me to our next discussion points. But Scott, thanks so much. Great questions, everyone. Again, you can see on your screen now, if you have any additional questions or if you had questions that we weren't able to go over, you can email Scott. It's srosenberg@purchasingpower.com, or email the info@wellnessassociation.com. And just kind of following up on that last question about employers that have best financial wellness practices, with this, kind of growing trend in more holistic approaches and overall total well-being, and, with what we saw in this recent presentation, such a high rate of employees stretched, over financial matters. This will be a topic that we'll be featuring at our 2015 Corporate Wellness Conference, which is taking place in Orlando September 27th through the 30th. This coming year will feature, 20 plus, successful employer case studies, including one couple of employers on financial wellness programs and some of the successful strategies that they've implemented to engage their employees and taking an active role and being proactive, I suppose, in their financial well-being. At the event, you can get certified in corporate wellness. We've also got 2 new certifications in fitness and nutrition, and it's an opportunity for employers to gain SPHR credits as well as insurance license to get CE credits. So we invite you to save the date. Again, we focus on sharing those successful employer case studies. Definitely excited to share, some of the employers that are really paving the way as it relates to financial wellness. Again, we've got a whole new track focused on fitness and nutrition this year. Here are some of the speakers from last year's fitness and nutrition conference track. And in addition to, our focus and through the agenda, we'll have our Healthy Foods in the Workplace Forum. We're looking at expanding on this topic of financial wellness. So, any employers that are interested in developing possibly a roundtable as it relates to financial wellness, please feel free to email me. I'm working right now on developing those roundtable discussions. And I think, with all the questions and this growing trend in knowledge of kind of this gap in the industry, I think it would definitely be worthwhile to have a roundtable and forum surrounding financial wellness. And so, we just invite you to save the date. Again, the event is September 27th through the 30th. We have an employer VIP program where employers can attend for free, and independent brokers and agents as well. It's an opportunity for you to sit in sessions, like that with purchasing power, as well as on topics like financial wellness. We've got a special discount that we're offering for any of you sitting on today's webcast to participate in our fitness and nutrition certification or the corporate wellness certification, where you can learn of, other leading innovations and trends within the corporate wellness space. Again, on behalf of, the Corporate Health and Wellness Association and Scott, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us for today's webcast. A very special thank you for Purchasing Power, for helping to make this webinar possible. Again, we'll be sharing with you a recording of today's webcast that you can go back and review, as well as we strongly encourage you to pass it along to your colleagues and any partners within the industry. And thank you again, Scott, so much for taking the time and sharing your expertise and insight on this very timely topic.
My pleasure, Sarah, and thanks for sharing the stage with me, and thanks everybody for taking the time out of your day to join me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.